Gentleman from Florida, Mr. Waltz, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kahl, did we successfully deter Russia from invading Ukraine? Did deterrence work? We had a whole series of diplomatic, economic sanctions, the most powerful sanctions the world has ever seen, not to mention our ongoing security assistance at the time. Did that work? Was it successful?
Clearly, because he invaded Ukraine, Putin was not deterred.
So it's safe to say deterrence failed in this case?
Well, one possibility is also that Putin was not deterrable as it related to going into Ukraine. He has been deterred as it relates to going after the United States or NATO.
So you would postulate that no matter what we provided Ukraine, deterrence would have failed?
I actually think our intelligence community is split on this view. Their assessment was that almost no amount of weapons prior to the conflict could have deterred Putin from going into Ukraine.
Well, I asked this in the sense that I was in Ukraine the month before. And at the time, the answer that the Ukrainians were receiving, that we received, was that Stingers, too escalatory, anti-ship missiles, too provocative, long-range artillery, certainly off the books and improbable. Other things will take too long to train on. And what we've seen is Stingers too provocative, then we provide them. Harpoons too provocative, then we provide them. HIMARS can't do that, then we give them. Patriots, absolutely not, then we give them. Tanks, Bradleys, heck no, takes too long. Now here we are a year later, we're providing them. I think, as we're patting ourselves on the back, providing an ally the arms they need to defend themselves, if we've decided it's within our interest after entire cities and whole regions have been devastated, probably isn't a good strategy. Would you agree with that?
Well, we did provide hundreds of millions of dollars in assistance in the months leading up to the war. And then, of course, Congress...
Actually, if we really rewind the clock, starting in 2014, we provided only non-lethal aid until 2017. Was that a mistake?
Well, I was then National Security Advisor to then Vice President Biden, and he favored providing lethal assistance like javelins. That's everybody knows that.
And the Obama administration
made a different decision.
Was that a mistake?
I think in retrospect, we should have provided them Javelin missiles. That's been the position of then Vice President Biden.
The Trump administration then provided.
It was a complicated tale, I think, as you recall from the transcript.
Let's move to burden sharing, because I think this is absolutely an issue I hear from my constituents and something we need to address as a policy matter. The United States provided $30 billion in security assistance. The next nearest is Germany at $3.5 billion, a tenth of what we've provided. UK less than $3 billion, France less than $1 billion. They're in the hundred millions, and poor Estonia has provided 3 times, just by percentage of GDP, what France has provided. So all in total, even though our economies of the EU and the United States roughly the same, the Europeans have provided less than half of what we have, and we haven't even gotten into the rest that makes up the full $100 billion. Is that fair? Is that effective burden sharing?
Well, obviously, we've been working with our allies and partners throughout, and the Secretary of Defense has held now 9 of these Ukraine defense contact groups. They meet monthly.
No, I understand.
I'm going to answer your question. If you actually take the top 20 contributors of security assistance to Ukraine as a percentage of GDP, the United States ranks 10th. And there are a number of European countries that are above the bar. You mentioned Estonia. Latvia is also up there, but countries like Poland, Finland, Norway, Denmark, the Czech Republic, Sweden are all above us as a percentage of GDP. And then some of the countries that you mentioned are below us.
But I'm talking about right on the front lines, clearly in their interest, Germany in particular. What have we done to get Germany and France and Italy and these large economies clearly in the heart of NATO, in the heart of Europe, and directly, if we buy into the matter that this is in our interest because if Putin slices through Ukraine, he'll keep going. What have we done effectively to get them to step up to the plate, at least dollar for dollar, dollar for euro?
I think the Defense Department has certainly worked alongside the White House and the State Department on diplomacy in this regard from the very beginning. That's why the Secretary of Defense holds these monthly meetings. They started in Ramstein Air Base in Germany. The Germans, as of now, have provided $3.58 billion. The UK has provided $2.85 billion.
I read out the statistics. I would just postulate, going forward, over the long term, just as we had in the Gulf War, where we had an effective diplomatic effort to pay for this, this is a global issue.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair, and
I think we need to do a lot
Massachusetts,
more
Mr.
to get Europe
Keating
to
for
step
5
up.
minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.